the final layer of earth seals the dome against the elements. It takes thousands of pounds of material to build a living roof. Here is how she raised it from the ground up. Surrounded by dense forest and a deep reservoir, this remote lakeside offers raw materials but little natural shelter. One builder intends to change that. She carries only a single backpack and basic hand tools. To survive the shifting weather, she must engineer a permanent structure from whatever the valley provides. Construction begins with the harvest. Using a compact hand saw, she selects specific saplings and fallen timber from the dense underbrush. These thin, flexible branches will serve as the primary framework. Harvesting living or recently fallen wood is crucial here. Dry, brittle timber would snap under tension, while green wood retains the flexibility needed to bend into load-bearing arches. A heavy blade quickly tapers the rigid logs into sharp, penetrating stakes. The foundation dictates the strength of the entire shelter, requiring deep anchors to resist high winds sweeping off the lake. Driving these posts directly into the compact soil forms a rigid, immovable base. She spaces them in a deliberate circular pattern. A circular footprint maximizes interior volume while minimizing the perimeter surface area exposed to the cold. With no concrete or synthetic anchors, the friction of the dense earth against the buried wood is the only thing locking the foundation in place. With the vertical post set, horizontal crossbeams are secured to tie the ring together. Using a heavy section of hardwood as a makeshift mallet prevents the need to pack in a heavy steel hammer. These steel nails create fixed shear points, ensuring the wooden perimeter cannot warp or shift outward once thousands of pounds of roofing material are piled on top. The interior floor mat is woven into place, keeping the builder insulated from the damp earth. Now, the focus shifts to the superstructure. Long, slender saplings are chamfered at the base to fit tightly into the perimeter ring. By stripping the bark and tapering the ends, the wood can be driven deeply into the soil beside the foundation stakes, creating a double reinforced anchor point for the heavy arches. The long saplings are bent inward and lashed together, forming a skeletal dome. Working from the center, she weaves the intersecting ribs at the apex. A domed ceiling is a highly efficient architectural shape. Because every arch pushes inward against the center ring, compressive forces are distributed evenly down the curved walls and into the ground. This self-supporting geometry eliminates the need for massive, internal, load-bearing columns. By adjusting the tension at the crown, the builder ensures the frame will not sag under the immense weight of the earthen roof to come. While the main lattice cures into its curved shape, she constructs a modular door hatch. Wiring thin, uniform branches onto a rectangular frame creates a rigid barrier. This separate panel will allow her to seal off the circular entrance, blocking wind and trapping the radiant heat generated inside. Thick, green vines are interlaced to form a dense outer shield. Harvesting these while they are still full of sap allows them to be bent into extremely tight radii without snapping. As the natural fibers dry, over the coming weeks, they will shrink and harden, locking the weave into a stiff, impenetrable armor that acts as the primary weather barrier. The finished perimeter of the mat is bound off to prevent unraveling. Instead of using natural cordage, which can rot when exposed to constant moisture, she relies on galvanized wire to lash the heavy shield directly to the dome's structural ribs. This mechanical connection prevents the covering from peeling away during severe upland gales. The woven shield adds crucial shear strength to the skeletal frame, turning the independent arches into a single unified hull that will comfortably support the heavy exterior cladding. The final stage of weatherproofing requires serious mass. Using a heavy, flat blade, she cuts thick squares of native turf from the surrounding field. These blocks of sod contain a dense root matrix that holds the soil together like biological rebar. When layered over the dome, this heavy blanket of earth acts as massive thermal insulation, regulating the interior temperature while camouflaging the shelterry into the grassy hillside. With the roof sealed and the interior dark, establishing a heat source becomes the priority. Large, jagged river stones are gathered to construct a centralized fire ring on the grass. The high silica content of these light-colored rocks makes them excellent thermal batteries. Throughout the evening, they will absorb the intense heat of the flames and slowly radiate it back into the enclosed space long after the fire burns out. Carefully arranging them creates a raised buffer, preventing the open flame from spreading across the dry wooden floor mat. She uses a lighter to coax a bundle of dry tinder into a flame, feeding it small pieces of kindling until the fire catches hold. The shape of the dome will naturally channel the rising smoke up and out of the entrance, keeping the breathing air near the floor perfectly clear. Managing calories is a constant requirement in the bush. Using a flat slab of gray shale and a section of log as clean prepped surfaces, the builder begins processing aromatics. Red onion and fresh garlic are roughly chopped. The sulfur compounds released from crushing the garlic will tenderize the meat during a long, slow cook. A sharp, heavy blade is essential here. Doing precision kitchen work with a thick outdoor knife requires a well-maintained edge. By breaking the vegetables down into small, uniform pieces, she ensures they will melt down rapidly in the residual heat of the fire pit, creating a rich, steaming liquid that will baste the protein from the inside out. The seasoned meat is wrapped tightly in aluminum foil and buried directly in the bed of gray ash and glowing coals. This technique effectively turns the fire pit into an underground oven. The foil traps moisture, while the insulating layer of ash regulates the intense thermal output of the embers, preventing the exterior of the ribs from scorching. Because this slow cooking method requires hours of passive waiting, it frees the builder to tackle secondary infrastructure. Using a heavy hatchet, she drives nails to secure thick horizontal logs across vertical stumps. This creates a raised, dry seating platform. Keeping gear and bodies elevated off the damp ground is a fundamental principle of long-term wilderness living, reducing the rapid transfer of body heat into the cold earth. Boiling water extracts the dark, rich compounds from the roasted coffee grounds, providing a simple comfort after a grueling day of labor. The embers have finally burned down to a dull glow. Using a pair of green hardwood sticks as makeshift tongs, she carefully pulls the charred package from the pit, avoiding piercing the foil and losing the trapped juices. The foil is peeled back, releasing a cloud of dense, aromatic steam. Hours buried in the smoldering ash have fundamentally transformed the tough cut of protein. The low, steady heat breaks down the complex collagen and connective tissues in the ribs, melting them into rich gelatin. This process yields meat that is exceptionally tender without drying out. Setting the ribs onto the wooden block allows the internal temperature to drop slightly, ensuring the trapped juices redistribute through the muscle fibers instead of bleeding out onto the board. A sharp slice reveals a perfectly cooked interior. The dark, caramelized bark on the outside contrasts with the soft, yielding texture beneath it, the direct result of patient, controlled fire management. The reward for a day of intense physical exertion is a high-calorie, protein-rich meal. Sharing the yield with her small companion reinforces a quiet bond in an otherwise solitary environment. Digestion generates significant internal metabolic heat, which will help both of them sleep comfortably through the dropping nighttime temperatures. Taking the time to sit, chew, and process the dense calories is a critical part of wilderness maintenance. A builder cannot work efficiently the next day if the body runs at a severe energy deficit. As twilight cools the valley, the thick turf cladding begins its work, trapping the latent heat of the extinguished fire pit inside the dome. What started as scattered branches and loose earth has been engineered into a protective shell. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system, a place that produces, protects, and sustains itself.